Today's episode is brought to you by Issue. We all have creative ideas, but how do you take your idea and then turn it into a digital asset? Issue helps creators, marketers, designers, and really anyone who wants to make content that stands out. Taking our ideas and transforming them into a marketing piece can be maddening. That's why teams have dedicated people doing nothing but creating and reformatting content. Issue solves all of that in an easy to use, make it once and distribute it everywhere tool. You can try it for free at issue.com. And if you want premium features like analytics or SEO to make your content more discoverable, you can get 50% off when you go to issue.com/podcast and use the promo code superagents. That's issue, ISSUU.com/podcast. Use the promo code superagents. We are also sponsored by My Radio Expert. If you want to supercharge your business, get a listing tomorrow kind of supercharge. The only way to reliably do that is radio. Yep. It is good old-fashioned get in your car radio. That's where people are getting their diet of politics and local news, and it's not Facebook. Trust me, I've been doing this for way too long. If you want to grow your business, you have to check out My Radio Expert. Fill out the Getting Started sheet, and you'll get a 30-minute consultation to find out if you're a good fit. Welcome to Super Agents Live. This is the one place where you can come and hear the most successful people in real estate. You'll hear how these super agents built their businesses, how they stay productive, and how they stay motivated. Who am I? My name's Toby Salgado, and I made my first million in real estate. And I'm your host for the next 30 minutes while we talk to yet another amazing real estate entrepreneur. Stay tuned.
Let's go. Yeah.
Today on the show, I have the founder and CEO of 1% Lists, Grant Clayton. He's got 20 locations in the first 12 months. Amazing. But today, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the Department of Justice and NAR antitrust issues that have sprung up in the last few months and kind of what it means for you. Hey, Grant, thanks for taking the time out, man.
But yeah, you're close. Close
all right.
enough.
Okay. Well, thanks for that. Thanks for that. All right. Well, let's talk about this. You reached out. You wanted to talk about this DOJ thing. And this DOJ antitrust thing is a little bit for the people who don't know kind of what it is. Just give everybody just a little taste of what's happening and what it might mean for them.
Sure. So basically, what's going on is the Department of Justice started targeting NAR. And without getting too much in the weeds, basically there's other companies like mine that are out to, kind of disrupt and innovate and do things a little bit differently. And a lot of them are very anti-realtor and anti-agent, or at least viewed that way. That's not our point of view, but, we feel we're a pro-agent company, but there's a lot of them that are going very anti-agent. And some of them have gone so far as to not offer a buyer's agent any commission at all. And so there was some instances where agents were on the record as stating, well, I'm not going to show your house unless you pay me this, or I'm not going to do this unless you pay me X amount. And so it actually got to the point where some of the MLSs were allowing realtors to filter searches based off of how much money they're getting paid, from what I understand. And that's when the Department of Justice got alerted to what was going on. And that's when they took a deep dive into, agents and NAR and MLSs to look at anti-competition practices in the industry. And that's what's gotten us here. It's kind of funny that actually the DOJ just filed a brand new lawsuit against NAR. I saw that come down the ticker about 4 hours ago.
Oh, that's interesting. How timely. Yeah, well, and a lot of this, I think, a lot of this stems, look, at the end of the day, Zillow's behind this, right? They have their hands in this. Redfin was a big player in this because, one of the big things, as far as I understand it, and this is, this whole thing is, it's a moving target, number one. And number two, there's not a ton of clarity around what is exactly going on and who is behind it. And an example of that is, right, this lawsuit started, I think, in September, and then NAR came out and said, oh, hey, look, we've come up with some sort of settlement. But the reality was that was bullshit. There was no settlement, right? I have a friend who scoured the court records, and there was nothing on record. There was no motion to strike. There was nothing there. So that was just vaporware coming from NAR. And I think some of this is Redfin. Look, here's I think
and Rex.
One more time.
And Rex as well. Rex was really the biggest player in this.
Okay.
Are you familiar with Rex?
Yeah.
Anyways, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. I was just gonna say. I think one of the things that they wanted to do was a listing agent goes and gets a listing. They sign a contract for 6%, and then it is the agent themselves who determine how much the buyer's agent gets paid. And one of the changes they wanted to make was there's like, no, hold on. How about the way it gets set up is the listing agent gets paid by the seller, and then the buyer's agent gets paid by the buyer, which at some level makes a lot of sense. But at the other level, right? Like I think a lot of this kind of thing just makes people develop stronger businesses, right? I think you have to.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a buyer's agent, and you go, oh, I want to list your house, and by the way, it's free, right? That was one of the things. You can't say it's free. So I mean, in your mind, Grant, what are some of the biggest issues in this in this antitrust, right? Like, 'cause that's a giant term, antitrust, because there's so many antitrust and I think components that are embedded into the system, right? Starting with the fact that, America has like 900 MLSs, there's, so what are maybe the top three bigger issues in this antitrust or an antitrust suit from the DOJ?
Yeah, well, I think number one is it's a lack of innovation in the industry. Okay. Like whenever my wife and I started this company, we immediately, as soon as we started charging our clients less money, our volume skyrocketed and our profits skyrocketed and our client acquisition costs dropped dramatically to where we actually made more money. But that is highly discouraged in our industry. Like, for example, I came across, I'm in a lot of these private realtor Facebook groups, and one person went in there and they made this comment, hey, I just signed my listing up, at 6%, just got my first 6% listing. And then all these people chimed in, like high-fiving them from all these different companies. And one person said, talk to me, I can teach you how to get 7%. Can you imagine like Dodge and Ford and Chevy all sitting down and, having lunch together and high-fiving each other to see how much more money they could charge for their trucks? Like that's never going to happen. But that happens in our industry. And there's a reason why it's called antitrust and anti-competition, because it's people who have no interest in competing with one another to try to innovate and give a better result for the client. And I think number one result for the client is to have a better bottom line. And everybody actively hates and discourages realtors who think in those terms of how to save the client money. Like they hate it. And they don't hate it if a lender cuts their fees and competes with their money. They don't hate it if a title company does it. In fact, they often tell me, oh yeah, I shop lenders to see who's going to give my client the best fees. And I'm like, are they ruining the lending industry by doing that? It's like, it's baked into our brains. Hey, don't innovate from a price standpoint. And I think that's what the DOJ is coming down on.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't know that I fully agree with your take on that, Grant, only because, it's not at the realtor level. I think that, certainly this is happening on the street from the realtor, but I think it's more baked in at the brokerage level. Right. Because
I agree.
Right. So I think everybody's got their little piece of the pie that they're trying to protect. And there is a ton of anti-competitive stuff. And, There's so much just bullshit that happens with people trying to protect their turf that what it does is that it ruins the overall customer experience, right? And I think price is not the driver for the consumer, right? It's the overall experience that's the driver, right? If it, I can go to Ruth Chris Steakhouse and spend $200 on a steak, or I can go to a steakhouse down the road and spend $70, and it's just as good, right? But and maybe even better, right? The overall experience is better. But there's this notion in the steak world, right? Or in the real estate world that, Sotheby's is going to get me, because I have a luxury listing or whatever it might be. And I think the real problem is trying to innovate on the customer experience. And I think if people started there.
I agree with you. I think where I would disagree is if everybody is Ruth's Chris, then no one is Ruth's Chris. Okay, and then let me explain what I mean by that. So, and I'm curious if you agree with it. So, like you have two things, right? You have quality, and then you have price, and the intersection of those things is your value. So, for example, a Mercedes has value, even though they're crazy expensive. They're crazy high quality, and so people see the value is there. Okay, a Hyundai has value because they're very cost effective and they have a fantastic warranty, so people see a value is there. And there's nothing wrong with either one. My only concern, and I think the concern when you step back and look at it and take off kind of the biases is, okay, you've got agents out there that are real rock stars. I mean, freaking fantastic, just doing an amazing job for their clients and making them truly feel special. And they're charging 6 and 7%. And then you got a brand new rookie who truly doesn't know shit about shit. And they're immediately trained to charge 6 or 7%. And there's no, hey, hang on, they're not Ruth's Chris yet. There's no step back from that. And maybe they aren't worth that yet. You know what I mean?
Right. No.
Maybe their value isn't there.
Look, I 100%. I think we're saying the same things. I agree with that, and that's why I think that if there was a move towards a national or a very regional, right? Like the East, the West, right? For the MLSs to all sort of be combined, right? That would be better for the overall consumer. And I do think that there's a lot of people out there who don't know anything, right? I'm in San Diego, right? And I mean, the average house here is like $800,000. It's like $750. But, so some guy who doesn't know anything and goes out and they're trained to charge 6% for the listing, and that transaction might be an overall disaster. The problem is that if you I think you said, Grant, you're getting a little bit of pushback with your lower fee model, and I think the I guess let's talk about that with you, right? You are coming out with a lower fee model. And let's say that I'm at Keller or for Remax or something like that. I think it's just, or Coldwell. I don't know why anybody would sign up for those kind of places.
You're anywhere. Yeah.
You're anywhere. Right. So, and you're coming down. I think there is, or is there a natural inclination from the consumer to believe that you are, instead of Ruth Chris, that you are offering in your Hyundai or Kia, right? Is that the feeling? I know my gut says you're going to say absolutely not, but the reality is, is that their gut instinct? Oh, 1%, I'm going to get less of a.
Yep. Yeah. The first question is, so what am I not getting?
Right.
That's everybody's first question. Yeah, sure. And so, I mean, you might be shocked to find our listing presentation is not like 2 hours pitching about how awesome we are as agents. What it is really about 5 minutes of pitching the realities of the market, which is that between putting a sign on the ground and putting it on the MLS and syndicating it out to tens of thousands of websites, that's about 84% of all the avenues in which a house can sell. And I have no control over those things. Like I have no control over the MLS. I'm not allowed to have any sway over the MLS. I have no sway over Zillow. I'm not even sure Zillow has sway over Zillow. They've gotten so big. And so basically my argument is with the advent of technology, a lot of the heavy lifting that realtors used to do is gone. It's out the window.
Right.
Okay, so what's left for the realtor to be good at? Well, it's social media marketing. But obviously, open houses are not the answer, because open houses were banned last year because of COVID, and somehow we had the greatest sellers market in history. I mean, don't show me a print advertisement with a gigantic picture of a realtor and a tiny picture of a house and tell me that print is moving the needle.
Right.
Print is moving the needle for realtors. It's not moving the needle for selling homes. And so my argument is that realtors should be valued based off of how well we know our market and how good we are at structuring contracts, not how good we are at quote unquote marketing, because most marketing is not done by realtors anymore. And yet, if we step back, like NAR, it's in NAR's best interest to have 5 million realtors that make a lot of money per transaction, but only do 4 transactions each. As much as realtors love to compare themselves to doctors and surgeons and say they don't discount their fees, I would never go see a doctor that only does 4 surgeries a year. And yet your typical realtor's only doing 4 or 5 transactions a year. How can a realtor, I would argue my agents are better because they're spending more time doing deals. I think it's hard to know your market really well if the typical realtor only lists 2 houses a year. I mean, if you're doing 1 CMA a quarter,
right.
How do you know the damn market? And so my argument is you'll be better at doing your job the more time you spend doing actual real estate work, as opposed to doing work that you hope leads to real estate work. And I think that's an issue with realtors is, they've been displaced so much by big tech that most of a realtor's day is not spent doing deals. It's doing stuff that they hope leads to doing deals. And that doesn't make you a great realtor. I've never seen a coaching class teaching an agent how to be a good agent. I see them teaching them how to go find deals.
Sure. No. Look. I agree with you. So the question is, are you on the side of the Department of Justice or NAR? Right? NAR is trying to protect their baked-in, fundamentally anti-competitive. I'm going to protect these brokerages. And DOJ is saying, look, let's break it all up and let's go with full transparency, because and I'm on unfortunately, maybe, I don't know, I'm on the DOJ side, right? Like, I'm all about transparency for the consumer, and the person who does 0, right, and does 4 deals a year, and who's honestly not very good at, because you literally, if you go to the gym 4 times a year, right, you can't be very,
you're not going to fit. You're not going to fit.
That's right. Like just, or even 8 times, right? You just are not going to be competitive in athletics or anything, man. I mean, imagine if you only cooked, eggs, right? Like 8 times a year, right? And like eggs are not hard to, right. You just can't be good at it. So those people should either step up their game or get washed out, right? That's what I truly believe. And so, I vote for full transparency. I vote for full, like, you compete head to head with me. And you are either I'm going to beat you or you're going to beat me. So good, Clayton.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, what is, where are you at with that?
Well, I'm on the side of the DOJ, and I'm on the side of the public. And like, here's the thing. If you look at a company like mine, like, my company didn't exist 5.5 years ago. And now, I mean, in the home office market, we have a 15% market share. I would love to tell you it's because I'm this amazing rock star, but I'm not. I'm literally selling ice cream in Miami in August. That's what I'm doing. I'm selling to the people what they're demanding. And I think where the DOJ is coming from, I mean, I don't know, but I would think where they're coming from is there is innovation happening in the real estate industry. Okay. There's innovation taking place, but all the innovation is taking place to figure out how to run a more efficient brokerage so that the realtor can get a better split and you can recruit better, or the realtor can get a revenue share and you can recruit better. And yet, we've been charging the same fees since we've been riding around on horses. Nobody has yet taken those same efficiencies that EXP or anybody else has used to offer a better split or better revenue share and said, hey, I'm just going to give this savings to the customer. And so as the customer, which the DOJ is there to protect the customer, all these entities, anti-competition laws are there to protect the customer. I don't think it's unreasonable for the customer to say, hang on, 10 years ago, you were on a 60-40 split or a 50-50 split. Now there's 100% brokerages that are taking small fees, and now you get stock options. You mean to tell me you still got to charge me 6%?
Right.
Like, really?
Right. Right.
That hasn't changed. And agents that make the argument with, well, if you charge less, you're not as good. No, you're either good because you're good or you're not because you're not. I mean, if you list your best friend's house and give them a crazy good deal, you're not going to say, oh, I'm going to do a shitty job because I'm cutting you some slack. No, you're either good, you either like what you do and you've developed a craft at it, or you're just not. And what you charge doesn't make you good or not good. You know, trust me, I've met a ton of horrible agents that charge huge fees, and I've met a lot of great ones that give breaks to their people. I mean, that's not mutually exclusive things. I think the DOJ, where their problem is that no one is innovating on the behalf of the client, on the behalf of the consumer.
Well, hold on. I disagree with that, and let's pick that up in 1 second. Let me ask you.
Sure.
Let me ask you. You know, one of the things in this antitrust suit is, and again, I thought this was from Redfin. Maybe it's from Rex. I don't know, because I think I thought this was from Redfin because it really supports their model. With the fact of it's okay. I can
give you I can give you the quick backstory if you want to hold your spot. Basically, when Rex came out and they were not offering a buyer's agent anything. Okay. And there was agents on record saying, oh, well, I'm going to tell my client the house has termites. I'm going to say that it has a slab problem. I'm not going to show your house unless you tell me what you're paying me. And Rex was simply saying, look, negotiate it into the contract or ask that money from your client. And because Rex doesn't put properties on the MLS, generally speaking, they didn't have to play by those same rules as everybody else. And that's where it came from, was Rex turned those tapes over to the Department of Justice, from what I understand.
Okay. Fair enough. I appreciate that. And so, yep. and I think on that, I think that would be an interesting twist, right? Like, I do believe that you know, even though an agent gets their license and it's very easy for them to go out and grab a buyer, right, sign a buyer's contract, and you know, and kind of kickstart their business. You know, it would be interesting to have people, you know, if I represent a buyer, you as a buyer should pay me. Because the argument is, you know, if I'm in cahoots, right? Like, if I'm the buyer's agent and there's no incentive for me to really negotiate super duper hard with the listing agent, because all that I'm doing, if I can knock 40 grand off the sales price, right, we both make less money.
Cost me money.
Yeah. Right. So, right. You know, I think that would be devastating to a lot of people who are not good at their jobs. But I think that would overall, I think a couple things would happen, right? I think that, number one, the consumer experience would get better. I think because businesses would have to get stronger. And I think as an industry, right, it would kind of up level the industry as a whole. Right, gone would be the people who, you know, can barely do any. There's so many people who are just inept, but they have a license, right? Those people should get washed out.
Yeah, I agree. I think it would make it interesting. I think the hard part is going to be people coming out of pocket. We would need some sort of mechanism where people would have the ability to roll that into their mortgage. Yeah. I don't think I think the biggest complaint that I have with the current system is, okay, so somebody, typically in a listing agreement, you've got a total commission, then there's what you're offering to the cooperating broker. Okay, so let's say somebody shows up and they don't have an agent. Okay, well, then they're going to be a dual agent, right? And they're going to get both sides of the commission. Well, let's say they don't want you to act as a dual agent. Well, then I'm not going to act as a dual agent, and I'm still going to get both sides of the commission. And so from that standpoint, it's flawed. But I don't know if making buyers pay their own buyer's agents is the solution. It's an interesting one, and I think it should be explored. I think at the end of the day, what we need is an open market. We need an open market where the consumer can tell us what we want, what they want. You know, I mean, I've been told for forever, basically all I did was I invented a system in which leads chase me. And we get millions of dollars worth of listing leads from around the country every single week reaching out saying, hey, are you here? I would love for you to come list my house. Okay. And so all I did was I invented a system in which we're still full service. My agents are making more money because they're charging less and they're doing more time doing deals. And I'm being told that I'm anti-industry. And so I guess my thing is, if an agent spending more time actually doing deals and saving their clients money makes the agent more money and saves the client money, how can that possibly be anti-industry? But everybody tells me I'm ruining the industry. So I think the industry in and of itself, I think square one is the industry has to be open to change. Okay. I make this case all the time. Agents are told that they're small businesses, they're entrepreneurs. But name me another business from a small mom and pop startup to Tesla or Apple that doesn't say, what am I creating? What is my good? What is my service? What does it cost me to create this service? And then what should I charge for it in order to maximize my profit based off of cost and client acquisition costs and things like that? We're literally brainwashed from day one. Like that was day one training for me is, hey, learn how to do your paperwork, come to training classes. By the way, we all charge 6%. That was day one training for me and my wife. So it's like, oh, okay. From that standpoint, you're being taught the very fundamental of this,
Sure.
Don't even consider cost. You're not allowed to consider cost. That's taboo. Okay. And you're dead before you even start if that's where you're at as an industry.
Right. Look, I'm with you. But the fact of the matter is the industry, right? The industry as a whole has zero incentive to change. There's zero. Everybody would like to keep the walls up, keep these systems and processes in place because it protects everybody's business model. They want to keep status quo. I don't think change is going to come from.
But does it? Does it? I mean, we hinted at this earlier, but does it? Is it good for the agent?
No. Hold on.
Or is it good for the broker?
It's good for the broker,
but not the agent.
That's right. It's good. Right. It's good for the broker, and it's good for the MLS. It's good for the people on top that make a little piece of everything that happens. Right. The guy on the ground. Right. It's not necessarily good for the guy on the ground, but nobody cares about the guy on the ground. Right. It's like, hey, you do this. You're brand new. You charge 6%. 1, 2, 3, and because it's good for. And when I say the industry, I'm talking about the brokerages and the MLSs. The
correct
change is going to happen. This is where what I was saying earlier that I disagree. Oh God, I thought I lost you for a second. I think I did. Hold on.
No, I'm here.
Okay. No. Okay. It's my mic. All right. So I think where change is happening and where I think change must happen is going to be outside of the industry, right? And I'm very involved in the tech world, and there's tons of tech companies. Everybody's been out to capture this market for a long time, and it's funny. It's really interesting, if you look at like a Zillow, which fundamentally, like I had, I'll tell you a story. So I'm in San Diego. I have a rental. This literally like that in the last 3 weeks. I had a rental in La Mesa, and I put it on the MLS as a rental, and I put it on the Zillow as a rental, and it was astounding the number of inquiries that came from Zillow versus the agents and the MLS. Right, Zillow just has this gnarly reach, but their market cap is like 36 billion. Right, it's like it's not that much in terms of the size of this industry. So there's lots of very smart people with lots of money backing them that are going after this industry, and this is where I think change is going to happen. Right, and I think you have a company like Ojo. And I won't get into Ojo, but a fascinating company, right? Developing AI, where the nuts and bolts of what agents do is going to be automated. Right? What happens when all of a sudden, all the basic questions and CMAs and all the stuff that an agent kind of does that maybe doesn't do it that competently is automated by AI. Right. And all of a sudden, because it's automated, now they can charge like realistically the kind of fees that you charge. Right. Lower fees, if whether that's 1% or not. That's where change is going to happen. And what I would bet on is that this is going to be a very slow and then very rapid slide. Because
I agree.
Yeah. So I think that's where change is going to come from. And I think that a lot of the, legacy companies, legacy brokerages, I don't even know why somebody would sign up for a Coldwell or Remax. I really don't. But right. Maybe that's, but those guys are going to immediately be the Kmarts of the world. Right. And the new thing is going to be the new thing. Clayton.
You there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
I lost you for a second.
Yeah, that was it. So, I mean,
yeah. I don't know. It wouldn't shock me. What I see happening right now is, I've spent some time in these clubhouse rooms and things like that where they're training agents how to do stuff. And occasionally these poor moderators invite me up on stage, and I'll tell these agents that are being trained to cold call more or buy more leads or just door knock harder and just work, 45 hours a day. I'll tell them, why don't you just call and offer whatever you have to offer to every for sale by owner that you can find in order to get signs in the ground. I don't care if you're doing it for $1,000. I don't care if you're doing it for $2,000.
Right.
And keep going until you get to 20 listings. Once you get to 20 listings, you're good. You can coast in, but do whatever you have to do to get to that point. And everybody's shocked and appalled that I would suggest such a thing. And I look at the current market, and so much of our marketing has been totally commoditized and taken out of our hands. And now really all big tech, in my opinion, I consider this like, the Zillows of the world and people like that. They're getting directly in between the client and the consumer. They're taking the client they're getting in between the client and the realtor. They're selling the client back to the realtor for a big markup because they can, and because profits are so high that they can do it. And so I think that that's going to continue until these companies figure out how to actually be the broker.
Of
course. Once they can figure out how to do that and make more money doing that, and they're already tinkering with it, guess what? They're not going to sell you your leads anymore. They're going to cut you off.
That's right.
You're going to be dead.
That's right.
And that's going to be it. And it's a sad state of affairs because we're like frogs in the boiling water, where we refuse to innovate ourselves, and we're going to sit there and do it and suffer through that until we're finally just cooked.
Okay. Okay.
And then it's over.
Right. You're right. However, it's not that now when you say we refuse to innovate, like we keep saying this, right? Like, is it at the brokerage level or at the agent level? And in the vein that you just spoke to, I would say that's at the agent level. These agents are more than happy to let Zillow go out and acquire customers, right? Interested users, and pay them a fee, because, right, that is the kind of stuff that agents are terrible at. Look, the fact of the matter is, right, people go get a license and they take a dumb test, right? You can study for your license, fundamentally in a weekend, right? You take a test, you pass it. Now you can sell $1 million worth of real estate, but you don't know anything. And you go get a coach, and your coach will kind of tell you, right, this what you just said, right? Get on the phone, call, walk down the street, door knock. But at the end of the day, you don't know how to market. You don't know how to actually run a business, right? Run a P&L. And all you might know how to do is to, create a CMA, right? Like, you are fundamentally inept. And so these people are willing to outsource for a large dollar amount to let Zillow do the heavy lifting, the front end heavy lifting. And then you come in and do what, right? Open a door, fundamentally. And
I think, go ahead.
No. Well, you can interrupt me anytime you want, Clayton. I think the show is better like that. But this is where AI is going to step in the middle and disintermediate people, the vast majority of agents who do that stuff, right? And then what are you left with?
I don't know. I think problem number one is realtors should start valuing themselves for what they actually do and stop being dishonest about what they should be valued for. Your typical realtor walks into somebody's house and they're trained to say stuff like, I know you think your house is worth $350. I can get you $390. I can do it in 2 weeks. Now sign up for a year and pay me 6%. And it's like, come on. It's like, start valuing yourself for what you are. You're not there because you're a marketing expert. You're not there because of all this amazing marketing you're going to do. You're there because you know your market. And I'll give you a perfect example. One of my best friends sold his house. His house was probably worth $375, and I sold it for $400. And I sold it in a matter of hours. And it's not because I'm amazing. It's because I took the time to know the MLS and know the market, and know that if anybody was looking for a nice house, newer house with an amazing pool and a huge back porch, he was the only game in town under $400,000. So I literally went in there and told him, you're going to get $25,000 more than you think you should get. And he got it in a matter of hours. Tell me what amazing marketing I did in those 6 hours. I didn't do any. I just knew the market. I knew the market. And that's how realtors should be valued. But realtors don't value themselves as that. They're like, oh, I'm a marketing expert. I'm this amazing marketing person. and they run around telling that BS to everybody without saying the truth, which is, I know the market really well and I'm really good at structuring contracts, but most of them can't say that because they don't. They don't spend enough time doing those things. And unfortunately, it's that way because that's how it's shaken up. We need 5 million realtors that do four or five deals a year. I would compare realtors to CPAs. I think that's what realtors are like as CPAs. Like I know most realtors think they're brain surgeons and heart doctors. That's what they compare themselves to. But really, we're more like CPAs. So imagine in my market, if a realtor does 5 transactions a year, they're probably making 40 or 50 grand a year. I asked my CPA, hey, if you had 4 or 5 clients, he's like, dude, I'm living under a bridge. I can't afford ramen noodles with 4 clients.
Right.
And there's just a huge shift there.
But Grant, hold on. But if we take that vein, right? That people are not marketing experts, which I agree that they're not, and your statement was that people should know the market, and I think that's true, but I think this goes back to any industry, right? Like if we take your CPA guy, right? Like your CPA is going to be a CPA for a certain sort of company generally, right? Like they're going to focus on small businesses, or they're going to focus on large manufacturing companies, right? Like you just develop a expertise around a certain thing. And if we look at even like the construction companies, right? Like people end up, they're like, okay, I do tile work for the residential guys, or I do tile work for flippers, right? You're right. Like you just develop an expertise around a certain thing, and you go out and you do that, right? And then once you have your expertise around your certain small little niche, then you have the ability to go and market that to those sorts of companies. The problem with real estate agents is they get their, this is one of the problems, right? And these are the people on the ground, right? They go and get their license. They sign up for brokerage X, and nobody tells them, hey, you have to focus on, you need to find a niche. And once you find that niche, right, you need to find a neighborhood or a little small geography, and you need to get down and you need to know that inventory like crazy, right? If you're in New York, you can focus on 3 or 4 blocks, and you should know everything. You should know what day the trash trucks come and what time the trash truck hits, Fern Street versus Apple Street, right? But so the question is this a failing of the agent on the ground, or is this the failing of the brokerage that they sign up with?
All right. So let me answer your question with a question. Sure. Well, what do agents value? Do agents value training, or do agents value their split or revenue share or their cap? That answers the question. I mean, agents are. Look, those big companies that you talked about earlier, one of the things that at least they can claim that they do is they're trying to train their agents. Now, some of them might not be very good at it, but that's what they're pushing is training. But agents go there, and then they don't value that training. They don't want to learn how to be real market experts. They don't want to learn how to do all that stuff. Literally, if an agent calls me and thinks about joining my company, the first question is, what's my split? What's my cap? I don't care about anything else. What's my split? What's my cap? And that's it.
But again, but is that's
what matters? Go ahead.
No. But is that because they're so uneducated that's all they know how to ask, right? If you're not a marketing expert and you don't even really know what marketing is, right? And most people don't, right? Like they have a very cursory idea of what a marketer does, right? What is the difference between a content marketer, an or a print marketer or a traditional media marketer, right? Like most people wouldn't know how to define those terms. So if you don't even understand how to define those terms, you don't know how to ask that, right? Like if you are, it's the difference between the kind of questions a college ball player might ask versus a pro ball player might ask, right? I think that's really what it is. I think people are just most people are, look, you know why people get into this industry is because they want financial freedom and they want time freedom. That's the fact. And they believe, okay, if I get enough financial freedom, I can have my time freedom. Therefore, the questions I must ask are, hey, Grant, what's my split and what's my cap, right? They don't understand the fundamentals. And but the question is like, who do you put that blame on? Do you blame that as a lack of training from the brokerage that they signed up with? Or do you blame that on the agent on the ground? I mean, I'll answer that for me, Grant. I think it's both, right? I think that you as an agent on the ground have the responsibility for your own life and for your family to understand, to literally map out on a spreadsheet what are the functions of starting. If you're an entrepreneur, right? What are the functions of an entrepreneur? What are the functions of a startup? Right. And then go out and go, okay, here are the functions I need to get good at. And then go and find that. But I think the problem is people don't look at the fundamentals, and then they go to a brokerage and the brokerage is not training those fundamentals. They go, hey, Grant, you know what, dude? Here's your split and here's your cap. Right. Like, and now go, pick up the phone and call this list.
Well, I think the problem's twofold. I think the problem number one arrives at the brokerage, because agents are small businesses. They are entrepreneurs, and brokers literally go out of their way to train them not to think like entrepreneurs. Okay. Imagine anybody else starting a small business, which is what a real estate agent is. They're going to start a small business, and the first thing that they're told is, this is what you charge. Whatever you do, don't innovate. Like, no, that's literally the path straight to the gutter as a business. And I blame the broker for doing that. I blame coaching for doing that. Yep. I blame all these entities in and around the industry for doing that. Literally, you're training them to be stupid from day one and think the wrong way. But I also blame the agent for accepting it. Like, here I am. I'm a lower fee brokerage. That's how we started. That's what we are. My first ever listing was a really nice house, and I charged 8% for it. Okay. Like, it was a huge commission, and it was amazing because I can truly remember walking in the office, and all these agents were so happy for me that I pulled all this money out of my client because I was a good salesperson and I could talk them into anything. The only problem is that my brokerage took half the money, and I felt sleazy afterwards. I truly felt awful. I'm like, hang on, here's my fiduciary. And really, what did I do? I used my skills to pull more money out of them. Like, man, that's not really right. And within a year, me and my wife were just like, we didn't do hardly any deals. We lost money our first year. Like, man, this is stupid. We're listening to what they tell us to do, and it doesn't work. And that's when we started doing something different. But I mean, it's only because I was hard-headed enough to not listen and say, no, you're all doing it wrong, and have the guts to do that. And I think most agents don't,
right.
But, that you're truly successful business people and entrepreneurs, tell them no and see what happens.
Yeah.
Look, tell me no and watch. I tell people all the time, like, I'll have agents leave other brokerages, and you're supposed to handle it classy. You're supposed to be right. You're supposed to be cool. If an agent leaves my brokerage, I'm cool. You're taking all your listings. I don't care. Let me know if I can ever help you. You do you. And I don't care under what terms. I don't care if you hate my guts. I'm still going to be nice. Okay. But when people don't act like that, I'm like, great. Now you gave me a reason. You gave me a reason to burn the village down, and I'll go nuts. That's how innovators and disruptors think.
Right.
It's like, tell me I can't do it. Please just tell me. You're going to make me wake up earlier tomorrow. But real estate agents aren't like that. They're just not. They're not cut from that cloth.
Yeah. I agree with you. I think, most people are not cut like that, right? Most people want to go along and get along, and most people don't want to create waves. Most people don't want, conflict, I think, I'm wired for conflict. I do too, man. I do too.
We've got huge stuff everywhere that says don't pay 6%. I run advertising nonstop that says, selling a house, don't pay 6%. And then these agents laugh at it because they trip my Facebook pixel when they go to my website, like in their deep, dark room in their house. They go to my website to learn about what we're doing. And then we retarget them on social media. And then they start laughing at my ads. And I'm like, you realize you're only seeing it because you've been on my website, right? I'm like, come on, like, don't be that way.
Right.
Like, we are outward with it. You know, you've got to be. We're shouting it from the rooftops. It's how you have to be. Go crazy. You know, just go crazy.
Right.
That's how it should be.
And you know what? There's so many crybabies. So many agents are crybabies because they can't compete. They have nothing special. Look, you know, here's what we do behind this show, right? We put people, we're an advertising company. We represent realtors all over the nation. We put them on traditional media, radio, television, billboards, traditional media. And we have a team of copywriters that know how to write copy, right? Who can move the needle in markets. And you know what happens? We put people on whatever avenue, let's say radio, for example, and our agents start to crush it. And then, you know what? And all of a sudden, man, right, there's all these crybaby agents are calling the local board to say, oh, this person, they didn't say this, or they didn't include that, or, you know, I object to them saying X, right? And those people, those crybabies like that, I think need to get washed out. Somebody needs, again, man, I love conflict. You know, I'm happy for you to go hungry. If you want to spend your time crying about the people who are winning instead of sitting down, getting in the lab and upping your game.
Yeah. And look, at the end of the day, that's what it's about. Like here's the thing. Do you think everyone is acting in their own self-interest? Like the guy that invented Netflix, he didn't do it because he hated Blockbuster. That's not why he invented Netflix. He invented Netflix because the public demanded it. Okay. And he's fulfilling a need. And if everybody approaches everything from the standpoint of what's best for the consumer and how do I grow as huge as possible, because that's all I figured out. I figured out if I have a better value proposition and if I stop focusing on what I charge and start focusing on customer experience and how much money I save them, all of a sudden I make more money than I ever thought I could possibly make. And I love it. This is going to sound boastful. I don't care. I love it when agents say, I'd never do what you do because I know my worth. And I'll ask them, do you want to know what my worth is?
Right.
By undercutting your worth.
Do you want to know what my net worth
I'll
is?
truly ask them, yeah. Would you like to have that conversation? And look, my realtors make double the national average and Zillow is out of their pocket. If that's bad for the industry, then the industry needs to pull its head out of its ass. And I don't mind saying that. If saving clients money and making my realtors more money with a better value proposition is just awful for the industry, then the industry is wrong. It's not me. It's the industry that's wrong. And if you're on the side of the industry, well, then go stand on that boat and watch me shoot holes in it. And I'm fine with that too. And none of this is a problem. And look, we have plenty of agents in our town charging 6% or more. And if they beat us, I'll high five them and buy them a beer. But I'll tell them I'm going to I'm a torch your yard tomorrow. Like we're coming and we're not stopping. But that's how it should be. And you develop a mutual respect for one another, you know. But I can guarantee you any other industry in the world, they're not trying to figure out how to play nice with each other. They're not trying to figure out how to teach each other how to be more successful and extort more money from their clients. If Ford could put Chevy out of business tomorrow, it would. And it'd be thrilled for it. You know?
Yeah, no, I hear you. And the funny thing is, I mean, this is maybe off topic, but you know, the DOJ NAR thing, this is how we got on all this, right? But the DOJ NAR thing,
yep.
You know, NAR, I forget how much, right? But I'm going to get political for a second. I never get political on this, but you know, when it comes to the lobbyists that NAR paid in order to fight the DOJ, right? It was more on the Mitch McConnell side than the Democratic side. And, you know, so NAR as an industry might be more right leaning, more Republican leaning, because more Republican is more pro business. However, right, the people on the street, right, if you look at like an Inman, right, like, man, I stopped writing for Inman. I stopped because the stuff that I write is a lot like how we're talking today, and and there's a bunch of crybaby comments about the stuff that I write. And I was like, I don't need to, I have other places to drop, the things that I think about. And I don't even know the point of me even saying that, other than, at the end of the day, this industry needs to figure out who they're really supporting, right? Are you pro business? And if that's the case, right, and I want to help everybody who starts a business under my umbrella, right, like this real estate thing, and if so, right, let's figure out how to help you build the biggest and best business that you can, rather than, right, like everybody trying to create little teeny fiefdoms. Where you might only do 4 deals, but I get your fees every quarter, right? That and that is what the MLSs want, right? That is what large brokerages want. I want your monthly and quarterly fees.
They want huge head counts.
Right.
That's what they want.
That's right.
My vision for the future of real estate, and I'm actually writing an article right now for Inman. It's an editorial piece, and I'll drop the subject. It's the false choices of the commission crunch, because most realtors feel like option A is continuing to charge 6% or whatever they currently charge and having all their freedoms and having all this stuff, and option B is go be an employee for Redfin and make pennies on the dollar what you used to make. That's not the case. Okay, there's plenty of other areas in between. There's also the argument that realtors spend 90% of their time looking for deals and 10% of their time doing deals. And I think it should be the opposite. I think we should spend 90% of our time doing deals and 10% of our time trying to find them. And how you get there is having a better value proposition. And if you have a better value proposition, like charging less money to list houses and still not diminishing your service, you can leverage that to do a huge volume of deals. Okay. And that's the goal. And when any other entity, even in real estate, is presented with that, they love it. Like, my realtors make about 1/3 less per deal than their peers, but they do 500% more transactions than their peers. If I present a lender with that, they're like, where do I sign up? If I presented, Apple with that, or Tesla with that, or anybody else with that, where do I sign up? Right. Realtors are like, what? Oh, are you nuts? Are you kidding me? I'm filet mignon over here. And I'm like, you know what? If you're all filet mignon, then I guess filet mignon is not what I thought it was. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, look, and because at the Apple and Tesla, right? Everybody, and I think you, Grant, right? You're focusing on market share. You're focusing on deal flow rather than and I think it should be like, let's focus on deal flow, right? Keeping a very high level of customer service. Rather than, your mind being always on, how much can I extract from this consumer? Because that extraction mindset, look, you told that story earlier about where you extracted a ton from that client, and you know what? You didn't feel good. And I think at the end of the day, right? Like, I think that's the component that is important. How do you feel about your business when you wake up in the morning, right? Do you feel like you're adding value to the people that you're working with, or do you feel, because we all feel that way, right? If people are honest, right, in their gut, right, they know they're either extracting and getting something over on their client, and they're hoping to God that their client doesn't find out that they might be an absolute fraud. Or they feel like they're adding value. And, I'll tell you, for me, I want to wake up in the morning believing, like really believing that I'm adding value to the world, because I can feel better. I can then go about my day, man, and feel really happy about how I'm doing things. Because, this is the last thing I'll say, Grant, because, look, there's plenty of times I started a bunch of different companies, and in every single one of those companies, I've always done one deal where I made a shit ton of money, and I'm like, like, oh man, that was really great, but I don't feel good about those deals, man. And maybe where I'm at today in life, I would rather feel like I'm helping people because rather than just extracting.
Yeah, look, I completely agree. I totally agree. And look, I think you can charge 6% and have value, but you need to be going the extra mile. You need to be the one pulling the weeds. You need to be the one providing staging. You need to be the one doing all those things. You need to be going the extra mile.
Yep.
And look, whenever I don't really do very many deals anymore. I'm more so in franchise sales and training agents and recruiting and stuff like that. But back when I did, I would tell my clients, I'm like, look, do you know why this works? Why I charge you less money? Because I do a ton of deals. And because I do a ton of deals, I'm going to let you know right now. And I literally use this line. I'm like, you're not hiring your best friend right now. You're not going to get that phone call from me saying, oh my gosh, my coffee's wonderful. Have you looked outside? Sky is super blue. It's beautiful. Birds are chirping. That's not me. I'm working deals that day. And I tell them when I'm given a lead I can chase, I'm chasing it until I can't chase it anymore. Once we have a deal we're working on, you're going to talk to me probably more than you want to. Mm-hmm. But until then, I'm not going to call you just to tell you I don't have anything to tell you, because I'm busy trying to put more eggs in the basket as opposed to sitting on my one egg, and it's because of that I can charge less. But I make the argument that people at the end of the day, that's what they want. They want to feel that value. Like, who do you know that works for Amazon? Does it stop you from shopping there? Probably not. And I mean, I know Jeff Bezos works for Amazon. That's about the extent of who I know that works at Amazon. I have no customer contact with Amazon at all, but I mean, I would probably rather lose a limb than lose my Amazon Prime account. And people are okay with that as long as they feel like they're getting a great service and you're taking care of them and they're getting value. It doesn't have to be a huge price, but if it is a huge price, I want the Mercedes Benz. I want to sit down and I want you to bring me a latte, while you get my S-Class warmed up for me to drive around while you work on my car. Like, it should be over the top.
Right.
If your fees are over the top.
That's true.
And then that's okay too. But it can't be, this is what the industry is, because then it all just goes down the tubes because we've already set our price and we don't have to innovate. It can't be that. That doesn't work. Not for the consumer. And I think, for a lot of agents, if they just take one thing out of this interview is, hey, if I really stop and focus on just what's best for my client and not what's best for me, I'd probably make a lot more money and be a lot more successful and be a lot more happy. But
you're right.
They will not do it.
Look,
they will not do it.
That's a great place to leave it, and I will finish that echoing your statement. And I forget who said it, Dale Carnegie or somebody, right? If I help enough people get what they want out of life, I will get everything that I want out of life. And I think that's what you just said. Hey Grant, thanks, man. I appreciate you taking the time out. If people wanted to know more about you and what you're doing out there, where can people find you?
You can go to our website. It's the number one, and then the word percent, and then the word lists, lists.com. Look me up on social media. I'm Grant Clayton. It's hard to miss me. I'm 6'4" with a shaved head. I mean, typical realtor, right?
Scary dude.
And yeah, I mean, look me up there. Feel free. Anybody who wants to learn more about what we do, hey, reach out. I mean, I'm more so the spokesman than anything. I'm out to change people's hearts and minds and let them know, hey, it's okay to think outside the box and innovate. And I tell people all the time, hey, meet me, learn about me. And if at the end of it, you're like, I really don't like that guy and I think he's stupid and it's not going to work, hey, that's fine too. But you never know. I have agents tell me every day on Facebook how stupid I am and how this has been tried before and it's never going to work. And I always ask them, I'm like, hey, are we talking on MySpace right now? And they're like, no. And I'm like, oh, so right. Social media does work. Social media works. You just got to do it right, right?
There you
go. And look, there's a lot of companies that are doing what we do, but they approach it as an anti-agent way of doing business. We are not anti-agent. And having a better outcome from your client is not bad for you. So just think about it. Don't be afraid to be weird and be different.
Awesome.
buddy of mine, Jeremy, tells me they laugh at me because I'm different, but I laugh at them because they're all the same. And I think that's the quote, man.
I'm with you. I would rather be different than the same because, all right, well, we can keep on going with this. Hey, Clinton, thanks, man. I appreciate it, Grant. Let's talk soon.
Absolutely, buddy. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
You got
appreciate
it.
you.
Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Let's go. Yeah. For those of you that want to know what we're all about, it's like this, y'all. This is 10% luck, 20% skill, 15% concentrated power.